Well, now, obviously, without no doubt, majority of the people, not only in Kenya but globally, are complaining about the tough economical times. The cost of living is actually skyrocketing. It's going all the way up there, and people are saying, okay, fine. Well, the cost of living is actually going up. But you know what? There is something that is remaining constant. And guess what that it is? It's your salary. Guess what? Here we have the cost of living, all right? It's actually going up. And here we have your income. The income is doing what? The income is actually remaining constant. It's not going up, neither going down. The fact remains, say for example you needed to get like $20 for you to survive in a single day, and again you need more than that, and again what you earn still remains the constant. Now the question is this: people ask, how exactly can I be able to sort of go around this specific situation that is going out there and be able to survive? How? So now today's video is about 5 simple tricks to survive these tough economic times. So what exactly can you exactly do so that at least you do not get yourself the jaws of these tough economical times? That is exactly what I'm going to share with you. And the only thing that you need to do is to sit back, relax, hit that like button, subscribe below there. There is a small button written subscribe. Hit that magical subscription button. And if it's your first time watching me, I am Joseph, talk about money and anything related to exactly that. Now, here we are. Now, the question is this: now, are there things that you can be able to do specifically on this time so that at least you can actually be somewhere, be able to invest, be able to save, be able to grow and move to the next level? Yeah, they are. Number one, the first thing that you're supposed to do, especially when you realize that we are facing the tough economical times, is to do something called achieve the basic needs first. Achieve basic needs, first. Okay? So if you've concentrated first on achieving the basic needs first, you see, let me tell you one secret. There is something called the hierarchy of priorities or the hierarchy of needs. That simply means that in anything that we do in life, not everything falls under the same category. For example, say you have not taken your supper, or you have not eaten like 2 days or three or something, or let's just say you do not have food, you do not have the shelter, you do not have the clothing, you do not have the school fees, and you have not paid for your electricity. And you happen to get some cash and can only buy one thing in those five things that you're missing. So which one would you go for first? Obviously, we go for the food because that is the basic of the basics of the basics in someone's life, okay? So there's something called the hierarchy of needs. So the moment you realize that there are tough economic times, so concentrate first on achieving the basic needs first. Because guess what? These basic needs are the ones that actually results to several things. Number one, guess what it results to? If you do not get it, you get stress, depression, okay? Depression. Sometimes it can even result to mental health, okay? Or we can just say mental instability, okay? Because the moment you realize, hey, can you imagine this? You are somebody who has a family somewhere. You have a wife, you have a husband, and you have kids, okay? And then you realize you're in a situation whereby these people cannot eat. You do not have the rent for their whatever. You do not have the transport to go for your work. You do not even have the basic health coverage and all those kind of things. So you kind of get yourself in a depression state. You kind of get yourself in a mental instability kind of a thing. And all those. And the other thing that you actually get out of that, or you not having these basic needs, is a thing called anxiety, okay? So when I say achieve basic needs first, you see, what I say achieve basic needs first simply means like, hey, go ahead and achieve something called food. At least your family has food. Go ahead and achieve what we call the shelter. Shelter is what you guys call it commonly, rent. The other thing you achieve is something called clothing. And when I say clothing again here, even shelter here, even in the food, we have classes of foods. We have the first, we have the second, we have the third class. See, the third class again here is when you eat the basics of the food. Because, hey, I can say you concentrate on the food and then you're talking about the pizzas, you're talking, well, again, in Africa, when you talk about pizza, it's a bit expensive. I know it's kind of opposite when you go to the Western world. But anyway, okay, fine. For those who are watching from the Western world, it's like going for the organic food and all those kind of things. Like those a bit expensive, like those, what do we call them? The Starbucks coffees and water. Come on, their food, yeah, I understand. But again, you see, within that category of the food, we have like several different categories. So, and again, when you're here in Africa, specifically in Kenya, there's some of the food, like you don't show up to those fast food like all the time because it's a bit pricey. I know it's kind of opposite from the guys who are watching from the Western world, okay? So when I say go the food fast, you go for those things that you know are basics, okay? For example, if you come from Kenya, obviously things like maize flour is quite stable. You need to have it here, just that what is basic in your country, that's what you take like all the time. That's kind of forms the basic food that you need. Shelter, again, you can decide, hey, because Joseph said we should achieve the basic needs first, you go buy yourself or you go rent yourself like a 60 G's house rent or 100 G's, just because You get what I'm saying? Just go for that thing that you know you can afford it comfortably, okay? And again, the last one is about clothing. When I say achieve the basic needs first, I didn't say you show up to Gucci's, the Versace's, the what, the Tiffany and Company and whatever. Those are beautiful and wonderful companies. They sell, nice clothing and such. But anyway, at this particular point, when you're facing these tough economic times, you really don't go for that. Just go for normal clothing, and provided they're decent and elegant and presentable, that you can show up with them in a work, then fine and good. You go ahead and do what, and you buy them. So achieve the basic needs first. The other thing that can as well form under the basics are things like a health coverage. You need to have something called health coverage, because if you do not, can you imagine something happens in between and you are facing tough economic times, meaning you are saving less, and then you're in a situation whereby your health is compromised, then it means that you need to part with it. And by the way, remember one thing: this industry called the health industry is no longer a healthcare industry. It's not. It has never been. Well, it has ever been, but nowadays it's no longer. These people, they are there to make money, and it's good to understand that, okay? And I understand, after all, they survive on vitamin M. That's money, that's for a fact. Anyway, now, see, achieve the basic needs first. So after you filled all the basket of all these things, and obviously when I say food here, you must, include the utilities, the water, electricity, the transport, those are basic. Those are things that you really need to have them for you to survive in such kind of a thing. So achieve the basic needs first, okay? Now, we go to the next one that you need to do. That's the point number one that you need to do. The other thing is that you have to have what we call avoid consumable debts. Avoid consumable debts. You see, there are two types of debts. We have what we call the, we have the healthy, and then we have what we call the unhealthy debt. You see, when we talk about the healthy debt, this is the debt that you take for the investment purposes, okay? And that should be the principle of the debt. You take a debt, you invest it so that it can give you the returns, so that it can pay itself, and as well can be able to grow you and take you to the next level. But now when you take unhealthy debt, this is what you take the debt for what? For the purposes of consumption, okay? Consumption. All right, you go ahead and borrow that money and buy yourself a wheat flour, you buy yourself or whatever you buy, you go ahead and pay the school fees. Kind of, school fees can be a little bit debatable, but the fact remains it's still a consumable, okay? Because you're banking on the basis of you getting a job in future. What if you don't? Now, the point is this. Well, I know from the West you might not relate to this, but in Africa, you can relate. So when you avoid the consumable debts, it means now, can you imagine this? First of all, you do not have the purchasing power. Okay. Now, if you do not have the purchasing power, now you're going like head there and you've borrowed, and that money that you've borrowed is not on the basis of investment. You're borrowing on the basis of you achieving your basic needs. Okay. And probably the reason why you do get yourself in a situation where you're borrowing the basic needs, it means that the amount of money that you're making and the consumption rate that you have is imbalanced. It's way above that what you're actually achieving. You get what I'm saying? It's like you're making 30,000 and you're living on a 35,000 kind of a lifestyle. So it means that you have to borrow the extra 5. You get what I'm saying? So you ought to be very keen and cautious before you do anything on that. So avoid consumable debts, because consumable debts can actually sink you deep into a hole. What you need to do, get your house in order, shake off some of the new things that you find are not necessary so that you can concentrate on that. But anyway, that point we're going to check it out future, and the next point that we're going to go and discuss. Let's go to the point number 3. The point number 3, none other than you having what we call avoid something called poverty tax. Avoid poverty tax. Avoid poverty tax. Anyway, let me explain this point because it's kind of strange to most of the people who don't understand what is a poverty tax. A poverty tax is a tax that you pay when you buy things in small quantities. For example, say if you buy things in wholesale, there is always a discounted price. But if you were to buy those things in retail form, then again the price becomes a little bit high. For example, say you are being sold something for 20 shillings. One piece goes for 20 shillings, okay? But they're telling you if you buy 3 pieces, all right, you're going to buy it at 50, all right? Say these are basic pieces. Let's say, for example, is a piece of a basic need. Now what happens is this. If you keep on buying, let's say you consume this piece, let's say you consume this product each per day. Okay. Now, then we have person A who buys it in pieces. One piece, whenever they need it, they buy it. Whenever they need, they buy it. And then we have the second person who buys the whole pack at 3 pieces at 50 shillings. Therefore, it means this guy, by the time he buys 3 of them, and they say they are consuming at the same rate. This guy, by the time he buys the 3 of them, this guy has used 60 shillings. Okay. And this guy has used 50 shillings. Guess what? Therefore, it means this guy has actually salvaged how much? 10 shilling. So this guy buys another By the time this guy buys for the six pieces here, the guy has used 120. The guy here has saved another 20. Guess what? He has an extra piece. So he has a one extra day for him to go ahead and buy that piece of whatever. Now, that extra income that you save, or that extra cash that you save, if you were to go for the wholesale rather than the retail, that's what we call that's what we call the poverty tax. And you should avoid it. And perhaps maybe this one can be explained on the telco companies. For example, if someone at the end of the month or at the beginning of the month, they go ahead and subscribe for a package or a calls package, whereby you can decide to get yourself some SMSs, you get yourself some minutes to call, you get yourself some internet, and what have you. Say, let me you subscribe that with 1,000 bob. Obviously, you're gonna get better deal. In place, you can have another individual who decides to consume, say, 40 shillings per day, in place of them getting the same thing. So you realize one thing: if you go for a 1,000 bob upfront, you're gonna have yourself a what? A way discounted price. Because, by the way, credit in Kenya, we call it credit or communication cash and all those kind of things kind of cost as well a lot of money. Okay. So be keen and cautious on that particular area as well. Number 4, none other than you having number 4 is what we call budgeting and strictly following the budgeting. So the point here is not budgeting, you see, budgeting and following strictly, and following that what you said you're gonna budget for. So you budget and follow that budget strictly, because hey, you can budget and then again you're not following it, so at the end of the day it's useless. You see, it is good to make sure you budget. Yes, that's amazing. And then you go to an extra hand or an extra step of now you following exactly that what you've budgeted for. And again, don't budget for extravagance. You just budget for the basics. Again, that kind of takes you back to the point number 1. Budget for the basics, budget for those consumption, budgets for the avoid or whatever. You budget for everything so that at least, hey, at the end of the time, you can anticipate. Next month, I have an extra few coins that I'll be able to save next month. So you can anticipate. If I was to assume this character, this habit throughout the year, I will have an X amount of money. Therefore, I can be able to invest. And the last point, but not the least, is none other than you prolong what we call gratification. Prolong gratification. Again, this one in another term, it means live below your means. Live below your means. See, living below your means in simply, yeah, I know I can afford to pay a house rent worth 20,000, but why should I pay for it? You know, how about I go for the 15,000, I save my 5,000. How about I go for the half of that? Well, I can be able to buy a car worth 3 million. How about I buy like 1.5 million? And then I take the other half to maybe somewhere where I can be able to invest and such kind of a thing. So just delaying gratification or prolonging gratification, whereby you say, hey, guess what? I'm going to sacrifice my 2 years or 3 or 5 years for the sake of my 30, 50, 60, or even for the sake of my generations to come. So we ought to have somebody who sacrifices in their life for the sake of the future generation and also for our old age. That's for a fact. So it's good to make sure that at least you prolong that gratification. And if you prolonging it, it means then you're gonna be able to go ahead and channel that huge chunk of money, the difference between what you could have bought and what you've bought. Now the difference between the two is what you channel towards an investment, so that you can have more streams of income. And people always ask, like, okay, Joseph, we talk about savings, whatever. At what particular point can you now say, now, hey, open the gates and now consume? By the way, that will be my next video, so you better stick around. I'm gonna talk about that, because anyway, let's be sincere. This is life. We ain't gonna live in this world like forever, and we need to enjoy as well. That's what we are making. So at what point now should we say enjoy your life now? Switch off, you know, those sort of things and just have fun and such kind of a thing. So that video I'm gonna talk about the next one. So you better stick around and get to see at what particular point can we say now, hey, just avoid all these hustle and bustles. Just relax and enjoy your life now. It is the time to do so. Anyway, guys, guess what? That marks the end of my video, but not the end of me posting a video each and every day. I do so on this video, or rather on this channel, by God's grace. So all what you need to do is to subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like this video if you find value into it, and comment down below, tell me what you think, because I'm a subscriber of just like an iron sharpens another iron, so do we learn from each other. Never forget, my number is always on the description of this specific video. How about you pick it up and give me a call? I offer those services at a personal level for just a cup of coffee's price. And by the way, guys, I did mention to you on 10th of March this year, 2024, and 11, those 2 days, I will have one-on-one session where I'm teaching you how to invest, how to manage your finances. It's a combination of two things: how to manage your finances and how to invest. Those are the two things we're going to talk about in 2 days. Can you imagine this? And we're gonna do this one-on-one. That is in a real FaceTime, like on a Google Meet video call. We're gonna have that session. So how about you pick that number, inquire on the session so that you can go ahead and have the discussion together. For now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.